Onde Onde Mtsan. This is Thongia, a podcast by the District 7 Legislative Office. All right. This is our October podcast of Thongia. My name is Warren Queton. I'm the District 7 Legislator. Welcome to this edition. We have our October guest with us, Miss Erin Teresa Parker. Thank you for being with us today. We're going to be talking about mascots. It's interesting that, this issue continues to come up it seems like every 5 years, something goes on in, our communities, especially in our Kiowa community, because, we've been dealing with this issue of mascots from within our own. We're going to talk about that a little bit today, but Erin Parker is with us. She's a longtime resident of Tulsa all her life.
Mhm.
She was a Kiowa citizen. She jumped roles
Mhm.
a few years back, but her family is from the Sompty family out of Godibo,
Mhm.
and we're glad she's with us today. She works for Tulsa Public Schools. She's been with Tulsa Public Schools for 14 years, and so a longtime resident of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And welcome today, Erin. You want to introduce yourself a little bit? Just tell us a little bit about
Sure.
yourself, your little family here at Tulsa.
So my government name.
Yeah, your government name.
So my full name is Teresa. I go by my middle name Erin. My last name's Parker. My husband is Chase Parker. We've been married for 22 years, and we have a 10-year-old son, Royce. He just turned 10 on Sunday. Yes, I've been living in Tulsa my whole life. When I think I was 16, I transferred my roles from Cherokee and Kiowa over to Apps-Shawnee because I started looking at scholarships for school, and so they gave a little bit more. So,
Hmm.
um, but then I went to TCC, and then I was just doing one class at a time. I didn't want to get into debt, and so I ended up going to Haskell. Me and Chase got married when we were 21, so we moved up to Lawrence, got an apartment, and I finished school. Went my straight 2 years, got my associates. So then when we came back, I went to NSU, and I thought I wanted to be like a journalist or write stories. I've always been a writer, storyteller. And so I was kind of scared that I wouldn't have an actual job, like trying to just write novels or something. So I ended up switching over to education. And so, like you said, then got my first job at the school I graduated from. So I went to Patrick Henry and then Edison Middle School, Edison High School, and then I got my first job at Edison Middle School.
Okay.
So I taught there for 6 years. I taught eighth grade language arts. And I always tell people if you can teach middle schoolers, you can do anything
Mhm.
because nothing scares me now. And so then after that, I ended up getting into Indian Ed because the lady that was my resource advisor, which is my title, she was my resource advisor from pre-K to 12th grade.
Mhm.
And when she retired, which it was, I got to say, over 35 years she had been working there,
Wow.
Lillian Williams,
Mhm.
when she retired, she asked if I wanted to take her place. And I said, of course. And Royce was probably a year old, and I was ready to leave the classroom to kind of, because it's hard work, writing
No,
lesson plans,
no.
grade
Introduce
papers.
Royce. You mentioned Royce. Introduce who is Royce.
So Royce is my son, my only son. Um, he he loves his grandpa. So my dad is Kiowa and Cherokee. My dad is Sam Jones Sompty. Everybody calls him Bud.
Hmm.
And so yeah, Royce, he goes to Mayo and
Okay.
he's in fourth grade.
And your mother is a Kickapoo and absentee Shawnee.
Uh-huh. So my mom is from Shawnee, Oklahoma, and she is, yeah, Kickapoo and Absentee Shawnee. And so I'm enrolled Absentee Shawnee. And I think my parents met at Shawnee High School. That's how, because my dad moved from Godibo and all that area and came here, I think, to play baseball and basketball.
Hmm. Well, as your dad's legislator, it's been a good working relationship with Tulsa Public Schools. We established our office here in Tulsa about a year and a half ago, 2
Mhm.
years ago, actually, when I think about it, and it's been a good transition just coming up here and being a part of the community. And, me, I'm from, an urban Indian community of Dallas and Fort Worth, and I see a lot of correlation to, the community here in Tulsa.
Mhm.
Just really close knit, and there's a lot of people here, a lot of Kiowas here in the area. And I think one of the things that I wanted to partner with you on is, and we're going to have partnership next week, even Cultural Day,
Mhm.
teaching our native students, a little bit about the different tribes that surround Tulsa, not just the three tribes that make up Tulsa,
Mhm.
Osage, Cherokee, Creek, but expanding out. And we're going to have a little Kiowa hymn demonstration, which I think Devin's going to help me with as we kind of teach our students a little bit about the history, where Kiowa hymns emerge from, a little bit about the songs that we use today. So looking forward to that partnership. But I wanted to start our conversation. I'll come back to that. I want to start a conversation on some of the work that we've done recently, just to kind of fill in our listeners on the issue of mascots in Tulsa public schools. And you were at the forefront, and you asked the Kiowa tribe for support, and we were glad to do it. But tell us a little bit about what's going on Tulsa public schools and mascots in recent events.
So, I want to say, and I'll probably get fact checked.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's been 5 years
Uh-huh.
when the conversation first started.
Uh-huh.
So it's the Webster Warriors and the Central Braves, and our Indian Ed Parent Committee. They had asked if it could possibly be changed, and so there was a former superintendent that started the work. And then when she left, our new superintendent, she took it up. And so it's finally like actually some action is happening.
Mhm.
So right now, the most recent thing is happening is that when I asked you to write your letter, was they went to the school board, and the school board had proposed a policy. And it wouldn't be specifically just for native mascots, it's for like all imagery overall, and it was to basically not be discriminatory in any way.
Mhm.
Um, and so that made the native mascots fall underneath that. So there was one school board meeting that I didn't go to where they started the discussion. I guess you have to like introduce it to the school board and the public to talk about it. And we weren't sure if it was gonna be a big deal because TPS has changed names of schools before.
Mhm.
They changed Lee Elementary to Council Oak Elementary,
Mhm.
and I guess there was a lot of pushback back then when they did that.
Mhm.
And so we weren't sure if that was going to happen again. So we didn't go to the first meeting. And apparently there were people yelling in the crowd and getting up there and saying things. And so we're like, okay, we'll go to the next one. So that's when we started reaching out. And I asked you to write a letter of support for that policy because we knew it would affect Native mascots. Um, Kind of the background of what was going on is like you said, the lands that TPS is on Cherokee, Muskogee Creek, and Osage, those were kind of the only tribes they were talking to.
Mhm.
And so I kind of let them know that that's great, but the imagery that's being used for these schools is actually Plains tribes.
Mhm.
And I think you need to include at least a Plains tribe. And so that's why I thought, I mean, you're here, you've
Mhm.
been in the Tulsa area, you work with Greater Tulsa Indian Affairs Commission. And I just thought it would help to have that Plains point of view because, just in my personal opinion, I feel like as far as, like, being Muskogee Creek, Cherokee, or Osage, if those images aren't even representing you, then yeah, you're kinda like, "I don't care, because
Mhm.
it's not showing them.
Sure.
It's not affecting them."
Yeah.
I mean, it does bother them, I'm sure, because it's just showing a native in a generic way. But then I just wanted the plain side to have that voice of like, do you understand what these feathers mean? Do you even understand like why do we have horses and why do we have braids? Like all the like I know some people think of it as stereotypical, but it's like that really is who we are.
Mhm.
Um so from there, the policy got passed. And so now we're having community meetings where it's the community coming together and trying to decide what the new imagery will be.
Mhm.
The names are not going to change. Still going to be Webster Warriors, still going to be Central Braves. It's just making sure that whatever imagery they use, it's not just generic pan Indian,
Mhm.
and they don't, and where people can actually have pride in whatever we use. So there's been one meeting so far, went to that one, and basically a room full of, I'd say it was like 30 to 50 Webster and Central alumni, and maybe 5 to 8 Native people in the room. And so it was getting kind of unorganized and loud and people yelling. And so I'm hoping at the next one, it'll be more, we can actually talk and figure out what the mascot is going to be.
And so those alumni people from the community, they want to keep the name and the imagery.
Yeah, I don't think they've been on the journey of it. So,
They're just coming into it right now
yes,
when there's a change,
yes,
and they're like, "What is going on here?"
yes.
So there's a little bit of understanding, like an education to those alumni people about, why this change is important
Mhm.
and how do we get behind this change and
Yeah.
educating them.
Because that's one of the things I'm thinking about. We'll see how this is going to be set up at the next meeting. Is one of the lessons that I do as far as my position as a resource advisor is every year we do something called cultural exchange days. We go into elementary schools and we teach all the kids, doesn't matter if they're native or not. We come up with something cultural to teach the whole school. So, for I'd say past maybe 2 or 3 years now, the lesson I teach when we do that is about the tribal flags. And I show all 39 tribal flags and we talk about the symbolism and imagery. And I don't know why I didn't think of it before, but I'm like, why don't I teach this room of alumni that I've probably never see first of all, don't know there's 39 tribes, have never seen the imagery on those flags. Like maybe them seeing how we represent ourselves in
Absolutely.
our own ways
Mhm.
would help them to understand why what they have isn't working.
Yeah. I think that it's always good to educate people who, a lot of people just don't know. This is their first lesson that they've had in their school. But even as a tribe, um, I've encountered some Kiowa people from within our own that don't know that that imagery is harmful. Like uh, they don't know that a war bonnet is trophy. A symbol of a warrior or a chief, a war deed, something that that person did to
Hmm.
earn that. Whether it's a veteran, whether it's a person who was an Indian doctor, they did something to earn that bonnet. And so even Kiowa people don't understand that. Altahoy, that's our word for a war bonnet, but it's substantial in that has meaning to it. And
Hmm.
so even just recently, our Kiowa Black Leg in the ceremony, we put a war bonnet on a person to honor the memory of that veteran.
Hmm.
And I saw a bunch of war bonnets being put on young ladies, and I think there's a lot of Kiowa people, especially in District 7, who don't know that imagery has meaning to us. It's almost like a medal of honor, that you would not make fun of a person that earned a medal of honor. So when you see people at the Kansas City Chiefs games, or that don those war bonnets on or war whooping, they're making fun of something. To us, it's a medal of honor,
Hmm.
but to them, it's just something
Hmm.
to represent that they're a chief, a Kansas City chief, when they
Hmm.
really don't know that Altohoy, it has very, very significant meaning to us.
Hmm.
And so not just anybody can wear those things. They have to be put on in a good way with a prayer, and there's a lot of meaning that goes along with that. So even our own Kiowa people, I think there's a lot that they don't understand. Like even you'd mentioned horses.
Hmm.
We were horse people. Our Kiowa people were horse people, and even our seal. It's interesting you brought up the flag. People don't even realize that everything on our seal has meaning,
Hmm.
down to the horse that
The
was
war shield.
the war shield. the horse on that warrior that Goulet is riding, that shield or that seal, that white horse with the medicine cap was one of the most revered war ponies because it was believed that that horse had medicine.
Mhm.
And so
And I'm sure the number of
feathers,
feathers on
well,
there,
the number
like
of feathers represent all of our 10 medicine bundles.
mhm,
So everything on our flag represents something Kiowa people. And then the war shield with the, if you look on the shield, you
buffalo.
see buffalo, but you also see Rainy Mountain on there.
Mhm.
And so that's the end of our migration route. So there's a lot of significance in that. People just don't know. And there's a lot of Kiowa people that are Kiowa by blood, um, but they also don't know that imagery, they're proud of it, but then they also don't speak up against that
Mhm.
because they don't know that it's wrong. And they've not been, maybe a lot of people have not been home to see or to be educated internally, like this is our identity.
Yeah.
We are horse people. This teepee that we used to live in now represents our Native American church.
Mhm.
Or when we have a camp, it's a place where we do namings. Something significant happens in that teepee. It's not just a teepee. It's there. I'm going to put up a teepee like you would put in a kid's room. There's cultural significance in those things that we hold dear. And I just experienced this because I had a camp, and everything was there except for the horse. We didn't have a horse, but we had our teepee, we had our war bonnets, our feathers, we had the way that we dress, we wear a roach.
And even colors mean
Colors mean a
yeah.
lot to us. So I think it's very, very important that education needs to happen, but not just for people that are non-Indian. It also needs to happen within our tribe because there are people that I've seen things on Facebook, they dress up like Indian and say, I'm a Kiowa warrior, and they'll have their face all painted and look ridiculous. Sometimes I'm not going to call anybody out by name, but
Yeah.
I see that and I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like why
Yeah.
you're obviously Kiowa because I see your last name, but we don't dress like that.
Mhm.
Those things don't belong to us, whatever you have on. And it's a difficult conversation. Even some people will make up a name, for themselves, like runs with Coke or one runs with Dr. Pepper or something like that. Like can we really take ourselves seriously when if we're making fun of ourselves? Then that's just going to be more people are going to make say, well, it's okay. They're making fun of themselves.
Well, and that was one of the things that happened in that meeting. They were holding up this paper, shaking it at me,
Uh-huh.
and I couldn't see. It was way across the room, and they were like, "Why is this okay?" I was like, "Well, let me see it." Handed it over to me, and here it was just the flyer for Tulsa Native American Day with Yataka's artwork on it.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Why is that okay?" I was like, "Because it's done by an actual native, but this isn't even being used for a mascot." I was like, "I mean, if we want to discuss this becoming the mascot image, fine, but it's okay because a native person did it in their own way and on their own time to represent something about something.
Running.
Like, it's not." I
Yeah.
was like, "How is that wrong?" And they were like, "Well, why is that okay?" I was like, "Because it's not trying to be a mascot and it's done by an actual native person representing something that they felt." So I was like, "I don't understand what you think."
It was a contemporary image of people running,
Yeah.
and I think the for those people that are listening that don't know, we just celebrated our Indigenous Peoples Day here in Tulsa, and Yataka Fields, who is Cherokee, Osage, and Creek, painted the artwork for
Mhm.
that. And I think it was called Trails to Triumph. I
Yes.
didn't particularly like the theme, but I think I got what he was talking about, talking about forging a trail ahead or try to
Yeah,
triumph.
and, like, winning a race,
Yeah, winning a race,
in a
and
in
because
the
he's trying to encourage everybody to keep moving.
yeah.
This idea of movement, and you can see that in this painting.
Mhm.
Very, very good contemporary piece. I think that we can all agree on that, but I don't think I can't believe they would use that to say this is okay.
Yeah,
And I would have just said, yeah, because it's
and that's what I
contemporary, and that's what Indian
said.
people are doing today. Indian people are runners. We are living in the city just like you are.
And that's the part I think that I mean, I already know that. The research has been done showing that when you ask people, "What do you think of when you hear Native American?" It's 1800s,
Yeah.
it's the past, they don't think we're here now.
Dances with wolves imagery.
Mhm.
That's what they think. That they think we stopped back then.
Yeah.
and we haven't.
Mhm.
We still have those things, but they are done in a ceremonial aspect to be used certain times of the year when we want to do things, on our own time in our own space. But I think, uh, how do we get around this idea of imagery when you get into the images that Native people are really proud of? For example, I just came from Anadarko, Oklahoma today, driving through, and you always see the Anadarko warriors with
Mhm.
their imagery of, the chief head,
Mhm.
on their seal and their school. Riverside Braves. I drove by Riverside today, and you could see proud home of the Riverside Braves. It's kind of like, and I was thinking about this conversation we've
Mhm.
had today. It, we're kind of saying it's okay for us to get behind those symbols because we use them proudly,
Mhm.
meaning that we don't go out there and dress up as Chiefs or Braves and hop around like Little Red on the football field. We use as a source of pride for community. Anadarko uses the warrior aspect. They have a very good football team this year, so everybody's getting behind that. I'm an Anadarko warrior. But they don't dress up in feathers and
I know
or
my issue with having it, no matter where it's at, and I'm sure I'll get back feedback for that, but it's because you can't control what other people are going to do.
yeah,
Of course, when you're playing another team, you always have to come up with those slogans, we're going to beat the Indians or we're going to fight the Braves, and it can always turn to something you don't want it
yeah,
to be, and you can't control that part of it. And that's where it's like, even though you might be doing it right and taking care of that image, you can't control what the other team's gonna do with it
yeah,
when you're playing against them.
yeah. I think that's always in the back of my mind. 'Cause I think about that, Anadarko plays some big schools. I wonder what kind of slogans they're saying against "Beat the Warriors"
Mhm.
or "We're gonna beat the Braves."
And, I mean, it was in the news. I remember what school it was where it was like, "We're gonna send y'all back on the Trail of Tears."
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And
Yeah,
it's just like, see, you can't control what
I
they're.
remember OSU had something to do with that. They had a big banner that said something, "We're gonna send them packing on the Trail of
Mhm.
Tears back to the." Yeah. But then you can expand that further.
Mhm.
Haskell Indians, a lot of pride behind that. Sequoia Indians.
Mhm.
Uh, those are things that people I think hold in proud tradition, but they don't go out and make fun of them.
Mhm.
But it's always a chance. It's almost like you play a team, they're going to make fun of you, and it's going to spread that imagery even further. How do you have those really tough conversations? We even have schools that are named after tribes, like mascots, the Kiowas.
Mhm.
There's a school in Texas. They call themselves the Kiowas. There's also a high school in Colorado, Kiowa, Colorado. They call themselves the Kiowas, but they've also reached out to the tribe, kind of asking for the tribe to sanction. We want to have this name, um, and I think the tribe is like, you can have it, but we want the imagery to be, this is who we are,
Mhm.
not just to dress up like wild Indians that you see in the 1800s.
Mhm.
And we would like to be represented in a good way, the best way we can.
And that's what we try to give the example, because we do have 2 schools, I feel like, that are doing it correctly. We have Sequoia Elementary,
Uh-huh.
and they made sure that all of their imagery is actually of the real sequoia,
Mm,
and they let us come in and teach the kids about who sequoia was and why he's important. And then we also have Council Oak Elementary,
hmm.
and those kids walk over to Council Oak because
Sure.
they're near it and they know what that tree is and the significance. So it's like we do have schools that are doing it, and it's just helping people to understand, like, yes, this is changing, but we can do it in a way that's going to make everyone feel
Sure.
actually proud of it.
I think in this political climate we're living in, where the current presidential administration's wanting to get rid of woke culture from within the federal agencies. We're now seeing that, across the nation. The idea of like name change, for example, from Lee Elementary to
Yeah.
Council Oak Elementary. as a veteran, I see that within our we just now changed like Fort Lee and Fort Benning. We were getting rid of those names
Mhm.
because they represented people that maybe not have not had a really good past, and so the name was for changed to support a lot of more minority names, and now that's changed, so how do we combat that, within our schools district? This idea that, and I'll say we're here lucky here in Tulsa because we have a very supportive community here in Tulsa. Where if you go to Oklahoma City, I don't think it. I think you're much more supported in this city, and we don't realize it.
Mhm.
Uh, because if you go to Oklahoma City, I don't see those conversations happening right now. And I think we're going to see that more and more. How do we combat that? People saying, "Well, you're more worried about this imagery change." Uh, I don't think it needs to be. I don't think it's a big deal. How do we combat that?
Mhm.
Because of woke culture, is what they say.
My the back of my mind, what keeps me going every day, and actually, I just came back from the NIEA, National Indian Education Association conference in Spokane,
Mm,
and Dr. Freiberg, she was talking about not specifically mascots, but just protecting our Native children. And she's basically just gave the data of showing that having these images, these incorrect images, and these hurtful images of our Native people is hurting our children.
mm,
And she was like, I am not going to get behind something that is hurting children, and no one else should either.
mm,
And if it hurts one child, that's enough. And I'm like, okay, yeah, so it just show like psychologically it does hurt them. And Chase, my husband, talks about it because he went to Union when it was the Redskins,
yeah.
and he said they supposedly they said that they asked all the Native students what they felt about it. He's like, they didn't ask me, and even if they did, they weren't going to listen to me. They were going to do what they wanted to do. He said, but it did hurt him. It did bother him because he goes from because his dad's from Montana and going to Rocky Boy powwow and learning and seeing and hearing and know all that, and then come here and just seeing them run around in red face and run through a teepee and do all the things. He was like, I'm not gonna stand up and say, "Hey, I'm Native." Like they're not gonna listen to me.
Mm.
So it's like it it's so sad that people just like, you're fine, get over it. If I'm saying it hurts, I mean, my son does all the things that he does. I'm not gonna make want him to feel ashamed of who he is.
Mm.
So, mm,
I think we've got to, we have we're building a tribal education agency. I think that hopefully in the future, as we build that capacity, they're going to do more with public schools and education of our citizens because we don't have a charter school, or a Sequoia Indian school.
yeah.
We have to rely on public education, and it starts with it starts with the home and trying to establish a program that we're going to have our citizens feel valued, and especially our kids. We have language programs expanding into Anadarko, Lawton, Carnegie. I think that's the three schools are being taught at currently. Oh, Weatherford, and hopefully we can expand and have more cultural training or cultural education, just like you said, because, like I said before, it's not just teaching the non-Indian people; it's teaching our own
Mhm.
what is Kiowa
And
culture.
and it is because we are so urban
Yeah,
and we're far away from our
yeah.
headquarters
So
and
it becomes
everything.
a challenge.
Yeah.
Even like we have a way of dressing for our ceremonies. People don't understand, when you come to these. I'll give you an example. This past weekend, we had a family come, and somebody came to the ceremony in full gourd dance regalia. We don't wear that during our black leggings.
Mhm.
And the person stood out there and waited, like, to be acknowledged, like, for a good hour, and it was awkward for everybody. And I looked over at my battle buddy on the bench, and I said, "What is going on? Why is that guy standing there waiting to come in and dance?" in his gore dance regalia, something's not right there. And this person came from out of town, thought that he wanted to dance and be a part, but he didn't have our regalia. So he said, I put on my gore dance regalia so that I can participate. And I was like, that we don't mix those two
Mhm.
because that's a different society.
Mhm.
We dress like what we have on here, but you have to be a member to dance here, just like you have to be a member to dance at Gord Clan. And I think that we've got to we got to educate our citizens on what is our Kiowa identity.
Mhm.
And as Grandpa Rabbit, I try to do that at our ceremony in
Mhm.
July. And there's going to be some tough conversations in the future. I had to tell people, we don't wear ribbon skirts here
Mhm.
because ribbon skirts are not a part of our. They didn't, those things don't belong to us. I said, we have our own Kiowa clothes. I want my Kiowa grandchildren to wear Kiowa clothes so they can see how a Kiowa is supposed to dress. And I think we've gotten away from that. So, like, Pan Indianism, Powell culture. I think most tribes that has infiltrated their identity, and we got to work through that a little bit and
Mhm.
do some training internally. What is Kiowa? What are even getting down to our values, our customs, things that why do we do what we do? And
Mhm.
even our roles, women's roles versus men roles.
And I'll say that as far as me growing up, because it's my dad, and I go to Kiowa Gord Clan, and I danced. I had my regalia till I was about 17, and I outgrew it, but I still get out there with my shawl. But when I had a son,
Hmm.
my mind was like, I don't know how to help him. I know how to be a woman.
Hmm.
I know what I do. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what he needs to do. So my dad had to help him. And then when my dad started getting older and he couldn't dance, I was like, I got to find somebody to help him.
Hmm.
So I got Robbie and Q, I got you, and I was like, I just you that's what you have to do because I can't get out there with
Yeah, sure, sure.
him.
Show him how to move and show him how to
I can
dance.
talk to him about things, I can show him a video, but
It would be even interesting, have a Kiowa night, where if people want to gore dance when the Tulsa powwow came up,
Mhm.
just to kind of help them out so they can understand this is what you dress, this is the way you dress, and this is the way you shake that gourd. If you
Mhm.
were real Kiowa, I think we do more and more of that too, and even getting down to our customs. Like why do we do what we do? Why do the men eat first at a Kiowa dinner? Highly debatable with their own communities. Some women are like, we don't need to be carrying that on, but some people do. So we have to define those customs and figure out how we're going to proceed in the future with our own cultural education.
Yeah.
And so,
And at the same time, because having to do all these workshops and learn all the things that I do, really at the heart of it, like you said, it is education. I can't be mad and get on to people all the time because most of the time it's because of boarding schools. Somewhere along in their family, somebody got disconnected. Or someone like I feel like for my dad, he got moved away for better opportunities. Go to big city of Tulsa. That's gonna help you have better. But it's like, but now he's far away from
it's
all his
part of the
tribal
root.
stuff,
Yeah.
and so it's like there's always somewhere in there in their story where something happened, and it's just like, let's help them get back.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm the same way. My family was the same way. We had to try real hard to keep our cultural roots, and that took a lot of sacrifice just to be back there with our Kiowa community so we know those things. But it's so difficult when my family was the same way. Move away for better opportunity.
Mhm.
How do we get back to that? So we've got to work to create that cultural exchange so we know we can train our people on how to do these things. So more and more food for thought on how our office helps with that.
Mhm.
In the future. So having things at the office would be good. And but one of the things that people have already said, well, if you're going to do that in Tulsa, why can't you come out to Los Angeles or
Oh my god.
Portland, Oregon,
Oh
where
my
they want to do a
goodness.
Kiowa language class? And I was like, we'll have to do this online.
We got
'cause
social media.
we can't travel everywhere,
Yeah.
but we'll do our best. I just don't think there's not enough money to travel on. There's not enough resources for me and Devin to get out there to everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's why we do this on podcast. Hopefully, people listen
Yeah.
and hear a little bit about the work that you're doing here in Tulsa and
Mhm.
find inspiration from that. So, thank you very much, Erin, for sharing your thoughts, and we appreciate you and look forward to working with you next week.
Yes.
So, thank you very much for tuning in for this edition of Thonga. Aho, de aho.
Do one of these.
Deon de aho for tuning in to this episode of Thonga, our District 7 podcast. The music was provided by Mr. Terry Tsotai. For more information on our legislative work, please visit our website, kiowatribe.org/district-7. Thank you all for tuning in. Hey, I'm I don't I.